Here we go, back again with another live stream, SAFC Fan TV. And on the channel tonight we have Jack. Jack, how has your week been?
Yeah, it's been not too bad. Nice 3-day week for me. I was off yesterday and I'm off tomorrow. So yeah, looking forward to it. 2 games ahead, which we're going to preview. So yeah, happy days. All good with me.
Did you watch the England games, or did you not bother with just being friendlies?
No, I did watch them. I think I speak for everybody. I'm not the same. I don't have the same level of passion for England that I have for Sunderland, to be fair. But I watched them. I thought we played okay. A draw was a fair result. But yeah, I just, even in international tournaments, I get behind England. I want England to do well, but I don't have the same passion or level of enthusiasm for England that I do for Sunderland.
Are you a bit like me, Jack? When there's no matches on, you don't really touch the alcohol?
Oh no, I don't know about that. I would have to disagree with you there, too.
And also on the channel we got Mike. Mike, how you doing, mate?
I'm not so bad. I've not got some sort of disease. This is heat rash from running around after a teething baby, so don't worry about me.
And a bit of decorating as well, I heard.
Yeah. This is it. Just non-stop. The life of the unemployed for 1 week, and I've not stopped.
I bet you didn't watch the England games, did you?
I wanted to. I planned to. Didn't happen though. No.
No, I never watched them. I never watched them at all. I can't get me heart in it. In the friendly England friendlies. I like the tournaments, but the friendlies I just can't get in it. Anyway, so them friendly rubbish things are over. We go back to Sunderland now. And I want to ask you out there in the comment section, because Jackson will read some comments out over the next few minutes. What was your thoughts on the minutes? The minutes that we had when Christian Speaking was talking about, obviously things down from KLD to do with the Black Cats bar, what they sort of discovered, what went on, and also to do with the new head coach coming in, to do with players, the model. What took your eye? Was it a load of bullshit, you think, or was he speaking from the heart, and you think he was speaking full of truth? Let me know in the comments down below. Just say it the way it is. Say it the way it is. That's the way you want to be on the channel. Just say it the way it is. Right, we'll go on to. I don't think Jack's seen the minutes, have you, Jack?
I haven't yet, but I can imagine what type of thing they were. But no, I haven't actually seen them, so I'll have to sort of listen in with what you're saying and maybe feed off that. But I haven't actually seen them myself, no.
Did you actually watch Dodds' interview yesterday or not?
Yeah, I saw bits of it. To be fair, I mean, I'm not one for interviews, because I think that the managers follow the same formula. Do you know what I mean? So he was sort of didn't make too much comment and wanted to focus on the game as usual. Do you know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I find Dodds, he seems a nice bloke and everything, but I find it really boring to listen to. It's the same sort of comments all the time. He says the same thing. They train really well. The training's going fantastically well, but they must have been training well all season.
I think that's the trouble these days. It's probably not just Dodds. It's across football. You get a lot of managers that they have the prep before they go on. You know what I mean? The media officer will tell them what the type of thing he needs to say. He'll tell them what to stay clear of. You don't really see the engaging interviews as much as you used to. You know what I mean? That Brian Clough, Jose Mourinho type off the record type comments. You're not going to say that anymore. It's all a bit heavily prepared. So yeah, I tend not to watch too many. I saw bits of it, clips of it, Terry, but I tend not to watch too much on the interviews, because I think they're a bit sterile. They're a bit too boring. And like you said, they say the same type of things over and over again. But I'll just bring a few comments in, Terry, while I'm speaking. So introducing people on the chat. James SAFC Ramsey's made a few comments at the start. He's first one in today. He says, how are the lads? He thinks it's going to be 1-0 tomorrow. That would do everybody in the chat. 1-0 Sunderland. He thinks Joe Bellingham's going to score. Well, that would do me. And it's his birthday tomorrow, so it'll be a good birthday present from him. So happy birthday to James Ramsey. Stephen Clarkson, he says, evening everybody, as does Ben Allison. Dan Wilkes also says the same. And Ben Allison's got a question for you, Terry. He says, are you going to South Shields versus Spennymoor?
Oh, when's that on? I have no idea.
Don't know. But I'm guessing that's a no. And if you don't know when the fixture is, Terry, so
it depends. But the Sunderland games, it depends where the clashes with Sunderland games. It might be a midweek game. I'm not sure. I have to find out. The crack with that one.
And last comment before I hand it back to you is Stephen Clark. He says, please, he wants Ballard and Hugh to come back unscathed. Do we know if there's any knocks from those two? Have they said anything at all? Do we know?
Well, on the interview today with Dodds, he did mention that Jensen Seals being out for 6 to 9 months. That's going to be a major one for him. He didn't mention about any other new injuries, so I take it they must be all right. And they've been coming back in dribs and drabs. A few came back yesterday, a few today, a few tomorrow's. Well, obviously tomorrow's too late, isn't it? So it must be today and yesterday, obviously, because I watched the interview today when it was yesterday, the interview. So yes, yesterday and today.
Yeah,
so they
I
come
didn't
back
hear
in dribs and drabs.
anything.
So I don't think there's any injuries. No injuries, hopefully not anywhere.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything either. And one last comment. Ben Allison's asking about Scotland Island. We'll probably not need to go into that unless we link it back to Hume and Ballard, I suppose. And Brad's bus video says evening, lads. So do we want to discuss Scotland Northern Ireland? I didn't personally see it, but I suppose you could look at it this way. There was a clean sheet, so you could say that that's good news for the two.
How many people on the chat at the moment, Jack?
I'm not sure, Terry. You might need to confirm that. Does it say at the top somewhere? I'm sorry, I don't usually know that.
69.
Might know.
69, there we go, sorry.
69 people on the chat, so if you give us a thumbs up, we much appreciate it. Helps the video, and also keep leaving your comments down below. Let me know if you've listened, if you've read the minutes yourself, and let me know your thoughts on that, because I think we just sort of they just say, I think nothing's changed. I think Spickman seems to be here for the long term. I can't see him going anywhere. We're not going to change the model. It seems that the 4 strikers that we got in last summer basically said 2 of them should have been delivering and 2 of them are long-term prospects. Mienda's a long-term prospect. Hamia's a long-term prospect. And I mean, something was interesting. They keep saying about these youngsters coming in from abroad and how they've got to learn to adapt to the English. But then someone mentioned, don't a lot of foreign youngsters learn English when they're growing up in school? So it'd be interesting to know which players actually understand the English, which ones don't. But Mike, have you read the minutes or not?
Is that not like when we learned French at school, though, and all you remember is bonjour and merci, and that's it? You didn't pay attention for the rest of it.
I don't know. I think probably England is a bit more sort of common than French, I think.
Are we talking about the original red and white?
No. There was a meeting just last week. I think there was in a minute.
I haven't looked at the new ones.
Well, basically in the meeting, there was the usual group, the fans groups, and there was bits and pieces, and then there was Christian Spickman and a few of the people who work for the club. And Spickman mainly sort of said the most things, and he basically said about the new head coach coming in. The new head coach can bring his own team in if he wants to, bring his own assistants in, whether he's just saying that to let the sort of, I think he just says what the fans want to hear. So I wouldn't be surprised if a new head coach comes in and doesn't bring anybody in, but he says that they can bring in their own people, that sort of thing. He's saying about how experience, how the fans want. The question was asked how the fans want experience. He was saying, well, we've got experience in the side. We've got Dak, we've got Corey Evans, we've got Luke O'Nien, we've got Jack Clark, we've got Patrick Roberts, we've got Dan Neil, we've got Patterson. They've all got experience in over 100 appearances each. Dale's got experience. So he's basically saying that we're probably not going to go for any more experience because we've got experience in the team already. That was kind of what I was thinking. And then he was saying about we almost went for a 30-year-old striker in the window, but we missed it. It wasn't our fault. We just missed it. I was kind of thinking, alluding to Kiefer Miller, but we wouldn't pay the money, but Ipswich would. So I think for me, I think the meeting's an absolute waste of time. You don't get to know anything whatsoever, and they talk a load of shite. That's what I basically up and down with it. But like to say, so Mike, do you watch the interview as well with Dodds?
Yeah, I do, but I'm probably along the same lines as Jack. I usually watch the first couple of interviews to get a grip of the manager, see what they're like. Dodds just, I mean, it's coached now, his interviews, isn't it? So like he says, it's just scripted practically, and I think he knows that he's only in interim now, and he just has a laugh with it, and he's not bothered with it. It's not really. I'm not expecting to see any big announcements or anything when it's his interview. I kind of put it on playing in the background while I'm working half the time. I'll mention on the Ireland games as well. Trey Hume apparently played both games 90 minutes, but Ballard only played the last game 90 minutes, but no injuries and no subs, so it looks all right, that side of things. But, I mean, that's Trey Hume's played 2 full 90 minutes, which is not great, is it, when we're going into a fixture?
I mean, you can see with the whole, like, the minutes and what's going on at the club that it is completely controlled. There's nothing going to be released or nothing's ever going to be said. Everything's safe within the box. I mean, Mike Dodds, he comes across as a nice bloke, but, like, he's never going to say anything against the regime. He's never going to say anything like he's struggling. He just says, basically, it is what it is, isn't it? It is what it is, and we have to try and get a win from somewhere. But, yeah. But anyway, Jack, moving on to the Cardiff game, is there any players you would change from the QPR match?
It's the QPR game seems that long ago now. I'll have to remind myself of the team, to be fair, Terry. But I mean, I think that did we start? I'm trying to remember. Did we start Bar against QPR? I seem to remember.
Yeah, and Semedo started up top, I think.
Yeah, well, they would be two straight away. I thought Bar was poor, and I thought Semedo was his usual absent self. So they would be two that I would change straight away. If it's a case of even moving Bellingham further up the pitch, I don't know if that's an option, or if it's bringing Burstow back. I don't know, because I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Burstow. However, I do think that he shows a little bit more than Semedo. Forgot his name there. And so I think he just shows a little bit more. He puts himself about a little bit more. So I think we just need to be a bit more of a goal threat. I mean, we haven't scored many goals in the last few games, have we? I know we got 2 games, but they were both worldy finishes, weren't they? Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like we carved teams open. So, and I think, one of the comments there, Marianne and Carl Taylor, please give Rig a chance. I don't see why we can't, try and implement and blood more young players in now. You know what I mean? We've got nothing really to lose between now and the end of the season. So let's see if we can get some young players in. And now is a perfect opportunity to give them 6, 7, 8 games between now and the end of the season and see what they can do, see if they can develop and how good they are and really test them.
Yeah. As you can see from Mike's screen there, we are sponsored by Retro Hub. And I think is there something, Mike? Is there something you're the way?
Is it?
Is there something in there?
The Retro Hub
for this. Any links in the description, Mike?
I assume so. Conrad's in charge of all that, but there will be links in there. But they do like phone cases and cushions and stuff like that, all with the old kits on. They're quite cool, to be fair. So they're worth checking out if you get a chance.
Retro Hub. Jack, do you want to read some comments out?
Yeah, I'll go to comments. There's been a little bit of feedback from what you were saying, Terry, about the minutes. So Dan Wilkes says Speakman is going to let whoever comes in bring their own backroom staff in, which is good. If that, I think that'll be one of the things a manager. That's like a deal breaker, isn't it? You know what I mean? If a manager's going to come in, he's going to want his own people involved. He's not going to be wanting to be dictated to who he can work with. I think some managers will accept certain things told them, but certainly not who they're going to be working with and who they're going to be dealing with day to day. So I think that's absolutely paramount. So at the very, very least, I know people are being critical of them, but it looks like that's the case. Stephen Clark said they also said they would pay a compensation fee in order to get the head coach in that they wanted. They said they would go to employed head coaches also. So Stephen Clark's making the point that they'll go for the right man, not necessarily the cheapest man. So if they have a manager in mind, they'll be willing to buy out his contract and go for a manager that they like and the one that they've earmarked, rather than just one who's available. Because that was one of the criticisms of Mowbray. Go on, Terry.
Just on that point, Jack, this is the way I see it, right? He says that, and he also says that, we're looking at these experienced strikers in the last window, but never happened. Now, I kind of think he'll say that, but then they'll go for a head coach who's unemployed, or go for a head coach who's out of contract, or go for a head coach who has nobody to bring in with him. And they'll say, all right, it's just the way it's worked out. That he didn't want to bring anybody with him. I think, for me, it's just all smoke screens, because they know the pressure that they're going to be under if this next season doesn't work. Right, Jack, back to you.
I think I agree with you. I think I do agree with you on that point, because I think that they're always looking for what's the easiest model to go down, what's the easiest route to go down, and I think it might be a financial thing, but I think that they're more likely to get somebody who hasn't got any ties, and you don't have to deal with another club than actually appoint somebody who they want. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope Stephen Clark is right, and that's what they say is true. But I have me doubts as well. But David Brown says he's read sections of it, and someone had to talk nonsense, and Christian clearly felt he was best qualified for the job. So David Brown doesn't read too much into what was said. Jim Nesbitt says we were probably last choice for Kiefer Moore behind Ipswich and Cardiff, so there was no realistic chance of getting him. So Jim Nesbitt thinks we went from as a bit of a token gesture, just to say that we went from, even though there was no option, no chance of us getting them. Stephen Clark says Dak's available. Well, I think Mike in particular, but we've all made our feelings known on Bradley Dak. Jim Nesbitt now moving on to the team talk. He says we should play a Bar on the right. He's much better than on the left. Mundle on the right. I'm not too sure, to be fair. I'm not too sure Bar. I would want Bar anyway. I mean, yeah, I know we're limited with options, but Nick Quinn says, got to play Rig until the end of the season, got now to lose. Well, I would agree with you on that one. And David is the last comment. He just says he wonders if KLD still wants Will Still. Well, I think his name's not going away, is he? You know, Will Still was mentioned before the Beale appointment. He's a name that's not going to go away, I think, in between now and the end of the summer. So yeah, his name's going to feature quite a lot.
Can I mention that I said in the last live stream before, I said when Job was on the pitch, I said right now I'd take Dak over Job. So just throwing that out there.
You take Dak over Job?
Yeah, at the moment, the way Job plays on the pitch, at least Dak goes forward.
Listen, this is the way I see it, right? We've got Rushin, who's injured, Mienda, who's up in Scotland, Burstow scored 1 goal the whole season, and Hamia hasn't scored at all. Aren't we better off just putting Job up top?
He'd probably be better there. Honestly, he'd probably be better there. I think he'd do a better job there. I mean, I'm criticising him, but he has played back-to-back games, 90 minutes constantly. He is a young lad. We've kind of not rested him when we needed to at different periods. And he's the best things we've seen from him is his shooting and his getting in the box and stuff like that. So maybe he's the best opportunity of a experienced striker at the moment.
Jack?
Yeah, that's my thinking. I mean, we haven't got a great deal of options whatsoever, but it's a 50-50 for me. Either go with Burstow or you push Bellingham further forward. The only issue is, does Bellingham need a rest? He probably does, but at the minute we're that limited with attacking options, particularly central attacking options. We've got wide options, you know, with Barr and Mundle, but we haven't got that many central striking options. So it's a 50-50 between Bellingham and Burstow at the minute. I'll probably say Bellingham probably shades it. Maybe Cardiff away, and then maybe play Burstow at home against Blackburn on Monday. I know we'll come on to that in a second, but I think Bellingham's best attribute is probably his athleticism, and he's getting in the box and getting on the end of things. And he's not an aerial threat, but at least it gives you a little bit of presence up front, doesn't he? That because we can't keep playing Semedo because he's a waste of a shirt. I'm sorry, but he's absolute waste of a shirt. The lad doesn't run, doesn't track, he does absolutely nothing. It's pointless us playing him up front. You might as well play with 10. And I'm not usually that harsh on Sunderland players, and I know people can say, "Oh, he's young," but he doesn't offer anything at all. So I'd be absolutely frustrated as heck if he starts him again tomorrow.
Yeah, it was basically said in the minutes that he said the 4 strikers, Mienda and Semedo, was bought for long term. You know, after about 6 months or whatever, and also they probably got sort of done to understand the English where Rushin was bought for a player, sort of Rushin and Burstow were the two who were more ready to start and to be up top. But like I say, Burstow for me, again, just he's a little bit better than Semedo, but for me, he's just not a striker. And he's probably at a decent level. Maybe he's in League One, but he's not Championship level at this moment in time. And he's an absolute waste of a shirt as well. And Semedo's the same. I've seen nothing. I watched them last against QPR, and the one chance he had an opportunity to bust a gut with the ball, to get into the box, drive towards the keeper, and he just dawdled around. And I thought, what are you doing? What are you doing? You don't show anything at all on the pitch. And it's just a shame, you know, because at the start of the season, pre-season, he looked promising with his head when the crosses were coming over, and he scored a couple of goals against really poor sides, to be fair. But it's just got nothing at all. Just doesn't show anything at all. And that's why I just put Job up top, because Job's got the second most amount of goals behind Clark, and he's got he can actually shoot. He's got decent foot on him. So he's the only sort of, he's not a striker, but for me he's the best sort of opportunity for scoring goals up top.
Do you think with Rusyn out injured, we should be calling back Mienda?
I don't even know if we're allowed to. I don't even know if we were allowed to call back Triantos and Mienda. I think we would have called back Triantos when we had those injuries with the likes of Seals. And look, when 9 was out and Ballard was struggling, so I think we'll not even try to call back Mienda. I think I think they've wrote the season off already. I think they're just trying to scrape a win from somewhere just to say, oh, we're safe, definitely safe, and sort of going up for the rest of the season. But what's your thoughts, Mike, on Barr and Semedo starting against Cardiff?
I don't mind. Bar's a bit hit and miss for me, because sometimes he comes on and he's absolutely brilliant, and sometimes he starts a game and he's absolutely brilliant. He has got a lot of potential, so I don't mind Bar. But Semedo, I think problem with our strikers personally is I think we're trying to play them all like Ross Stewart, and we're trying to play them all like they are solo strikers, and they're not. So we need a strike partnership if they're going to work, and I think that's the problem. So I don't know. It's if you don't put Job up front, then you've no other choice, have you? Because anything over Burstow at the moment for me.
And would you start Chris Rigg?
Yeah, definitely. I give him a chance. He's done well as he's come in. I'd like to see Ekwar back on because he wasn't at the QPR. He wasn't on the QPR game. I think he's good. Again, but I think he's a player that we seem to play when we play him in a more advanced position. Does brilliant. When we play him further back, doesn't. So it all reeks of bad management and bad coaching, to be fair, because we see potential in these players and they're constantly out of position, constantly just not getting the opportunity.
I don't really see much potential at all in a few of the players. I think it's bad. It's for me, they've gone down the route of have they really been out there and looked at these players and trained and looked at these players, live watching them play in the B teams for Benfica and these other areas, or they just watched snippets of YouTube videos or some snippets being sent to them from the clubs that they're looking at. For me, because I don't see what they're seeing at all in Semedo, and I don't like being harsh because he's a young lad. I wish him all the best in the future, and I hope he does well in Benfica B if he goes back there again. But we need to do a better job in recruitment for a lot of these players coming in. I mean, Bar, flatters to deceive, he's weak as piss. To be fair, let's face it. You're blowing, you'll fall over. He does have a good dribbling bit of skills, but he needs to be more direct, and he needs to build on his strength. And I just think, for me, he's more effective coming off the bench and not starting the game of football. When other teams are tiring, has a little bit of sort of waviness and a bit of speed. He needs to actually use it rather than just slowing the game up a bit. So, Jack, what's happening on the live chat? Any more comments out there?
Yeah, I'll bring some more. In. So where was I at? So Dan Wilkes says Job gets played too much, needs a rest now and then. Well, I think everybody agrees with you, Dan. But I think we're that limited with options now with injuries. Our squad wasn't the strongest and deepest anyway, but with injuries that we've got, he has to play, and it's hard on him because he does need a rest. But that's just unfortunately the situation we're in. Marianne and Carl Taylor, we can't look forward unless the model changes. At least let the manager have some say, like Solskjaer at Man United. James Ramsey says, thanks for wishing a happy birthday. David says, is the under-21 striker any good? Is he meaning Mayenda or is he meaning the academy lad? I don't know. Decadent Shark, interesting name. Honestly, if KLD and Speakman go for the Sheffield Wednesday manager, they can bleep off because it will be so underwhelming. It'll be the final nail in the coffin for them now after all the debacles this season. Dan Wilkes says he's travelling down to Cardiff tomorrow and hopes for a win. Nick Quinn says Dak will be out for the season for 10 if he plays 10 minutes. Chris Minton says, when I was talking about who doesn't track, I was meaning Semedo, but he's brought up Job and Ekwar, so I think he probably thinks there's all three of them that comment could fit for. Ben Allison thinks we're going to win tomorrow 2-1. We'll come on to predictions later on in a few minutes. DJ Sizzler Watson says he missed the minutes part, but regarding our goal-shy strikers, why haven't the club brought in a striker coach? Somebody like Kevin Phillips when he was out of work. That wouldn't be a bad suggestion. Obviously, Kevin Phillips is Hartlepool manager, not doing very well. They got walloped the other night, but I do think that they could do with somebody to be there, maybe show them how to, just little things like moving, the movement and when to get on the end of things and when to ride on the box and timing the shots and things like that, little things like that. Two more. Jim Nesbitt says Bar's more likely to be brilliant on the right. He thinks he's poor on the left. He had a good spell on the right when he replaced Roberts for a few games. Can't really remember that, Jim, but maybe Terry or Mike can remember the spell that you're talking about. And lastly, Dan Wilkes says some of the players are just not good enough. Let's be honest. I think that's what Terry was trying to say, but trying to give a little bit of an explanation as to why that was the case. But I think that is a general point when you set yourself up in the model that we are. You live and die by the recruitment, the players that you bring in, and unfortunately, too many of them for us, they're either not good enough or might potentially be good in a few years. But at the minute, that's no good for us right now.
They were basically saying in the meeting as well, I think you said a lot of staff at the AOL were disappointed the way the crowd criticise a lot of things to do with what's going on at the club at this moment in time, the team and some of the players, and they feel they're being harshly criticised. Now, I think we're now in the third year of this 5-year plan. Now, this third year of the 5-year plan, it seems even further away than it was last season. So against Cardiff, Mike, Mundle on the left, Bar on the right, or would you have where would you play Chris Rigg if he starts him?
It'd have to be in
the striker, maybe. So
yeah, like in the 10 sort of thing, because I don't think he'd go on the left, and I don't want to take Mundle off. I think Mundle's one of our best striking options at the moment from midfield. He's doing brilliantly, and without dropping Ekwar or Neil or Bellingham, then you don't know what you can do. But if Bellingham's up front, and you've got Neil and Ekwar, so it'd be Neil, Ekwar, and Rigg as the three in the centre. How you work that out, who's the more forward, I'm not sure. No doubt he'll do it the wrong way around either way.
So you see the team is Patterson, Hume, Ballard 09, Yelder, Neil, Ekwar, then Rigg, Mundle. On the right, is that going to be Bar?
Styles, maybe. I don't know. He's a bit utility, isn't he? So the right would be Mundle, the left would be Styles.
Right, Styles, and then just jump up top.
Yeah, but Aushish, again, has been good. But again, I think he's an impact player off the bench.
No formation change, just the same as you've been playing all season?
Well, if you want to go all out, I'd rather have two up front. But I don't think we've got the depth of strikers for that at the moment.
Yeah. If we played the likes of Burstow and Hamir up top, we're just wasting two shirts, aren't we, really?
Yeah, but if you played Job and Hamir up top, there's a potential there. To be fair, every time I've talked about two strikers, Rusin's always been in that mix in my head because of the type of player he is. And I think he'd assist a brilliant striker as a partnership of two. So probably no, I wouldn't change the formation for this one. If Rusin was fit, I would.
And I listened to the interview with Dodds as well. He's on about Clark. He says Clark's a funny one. He's training alone on the grass, but he won't be available this weekend. He doesn't know he doesn't seem to know what's going on with Clark. Is this because Clark's being told to just keep himself fit, ready for sale, or what do you think, Jack?
Yeah, I was just going to bring in the minutes, because one of the things I wanted to mention about the minutes, I'm just reading it now about Clark, and I think it's just absolute rubbish, to be fair. There's a perception, this is from the fans' perspective, there's a perception that Jack Clark will leave in the summer, and that's what the plan is should this happen. The club response was, we have one of the best forwards in the league. However, the club is not motivated to sell in any position, which feels that the contract planning that we've undertaken to date places the club in a position of strength. Well, that just goes against the whole model, doesn't it? Because the whole model is to sell players when they get the maximum money for them, when they're at the peak of the sort of potential. So what Speakman said there, and sort of almost downplaying that there'll be interest in Jack Clark, and even if there is interest, we'll be able to fend it off. I think every Sunderland, I think to a certain extent, do think that we're stupid, to think that Sunderland fans are stupid. We understand that Jack Clark's going to have probably bottom half Premier League teams after him, so this sort of, he doesn't want to go, and we're not in a position to sell him. That's just absolute rubbish. And it does make you wonder if the training that you've just said there, Terry, is to try and protect him as much as he can in the next sort of 6 weeks to make sure that he doesn't pull up and it doesn't affect an injury over the summer. I might be being a little bit cynical with that. He might genuinely have an injury, because to me, if you ask the lad himself, he comes across as a genuine lad. He'll probably want to play and do his best for Sunderland, but is the likes of the Ian Hart and everybody, his agent and his aide, to say, actually, Jack, we don't want you to scupper a move. Make sure that you protect yourself. And yeah, it might be a niggle. Nobody's saying he's faking injury, but they're actually making the niggle to sound like it's maybe worse than it actually is. I don't know. I might be a mile wrong.
Do you think, though, didn't his agent Ian Hart say that he should have been offered a better contract, or there was some negotiations, but nothing has come out from the club? So when Speakman says we've done everything possible to give better contracts, isn't that just bollocks as well? Because if you want to keep Jack Clark, you're going to pay him more money. And clearly they probably don't want to pay him more money to keep him at the club.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, they'll have a wage structure, won't they? The trouble is, if you give Jack Clark an amount of money, then the next player will probably knock on the door and say, well, I want to be in a contract increase. So it's difficult. But I don't think Jack Clark's the type to be like that. But I do think he'll be someone who's listening to people, and he understands that. He is wanting to be in the Premier League as quickly as he can. Just have to say that Mike has just had to drop out, so unfortunately, it's just going to be me and Terry by the looks of it for the next sort of 20 minutes, half an hour. But yeah, I do think he has the right intentions, but he'll know that there's Premier League interest, and I think he'll be sort of being shepherded towards playing towards the interest and making the most of the injury that he's had.
I think the problem we've got now, if that's the case, and if we're not going to give Jack Clark a pay rise, and I think Dak is Dak the highest paid player at something on 18 grand a week or something. If we're not going to reward players like that for doing well and giving them a pay rise, then that means the players are only going to have this ceiling, haven't they? So we're also going to be at this level where we're going to lose our best players. So this 5-year model, we're never going to get to the Premier League. It's never going to happen. We're never going to be able to get to the Premier League if we're never going to increase the wage structure and keep better players at the club, the ones that can get us promoted. So I think at this moment in time, with this wage structure in the model, we're just championship bound for a few seasons. Possibly even relegation battles could be coming up, Jack.
And you're talking about players we've currently got, but also trying to attract players to come to our club. Do you know what I mean? We ultimately want to be attracting players that are going to lead us out of this league and get us to that next level. And if you're only paying, to say that the bottom half championship wages, then you might look at somebody who's, in our eyes, in Sunderland fans' eyes, a smaller club. But if they're going to pay the right wages and they're going to have a go, like somebody like a Hull City, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to Hull City, but in my personal opinion, we are a much bigger club than them. However, if Hull are going to pay the money and they're going to have a go and spend and attract the players, then you are going to attract the better players, and it makes you more likely to have a squad that's capable of going up. And that's where you live and die. I've said it a few times on this channel, Terry, you live and die by the recruitment. It's all about the players that you bring in and what type of players they are, how good they are, how injury-free they can stay. And if you get that wrong, if you get, the majority of players like we have in the last 2 windows is not the right players, then you're going to end up with a team that's not capable of going to the level that you want to be at. You're going to end up treading water, and that's all we're doing. You mentioned it earlier on. I think everybody at Sunderland wants the end of the season. I want the end of the season. Probably most people on the chat want the end of the season because we're just drifting. We're drifting away into nothingness, and what could have been a season of optimism and potential is just frittering away, isn't it?
And if the model and the structure is to keep the wage structure the same, that's if it is. If we're not going to increase it, then we're going to be the 4th or 7th lowest wages in the league. Then we're always going to be that. That's the way it's always going to be. So we're always going to be looking out for these bargains like Semedo, players who come in like that, and Bar and long-term players. Because I said all the players that they bring in are not all players that are ready to play right now. So they're looking to buy players to come in for 6 months' time. But we don't have that luxury. I think we don't have the luxury. I mean, Mundell came in as the potential to take over from Jack Clark, and possibly he might be able to have a decent season next season, Mundell. There's not many players are sort of like that. And yes, you've got like a lot of experience in Dan Neil and Dan Ballard. But what happens if they end up going and they want to go too because they can't see any light to the Premier League? So then we're going to lose like the Ballard and Dan Neil. So for me, it's this next season for me is massive for the owners and for Speakman, because if they get it completely wrong, next season there's going to be under tremendous pressure because the fans now. I know a lot of fans now are not going to renew the season card right now because they're just sick of what's happening at the club. So imagine if it goes tips up next season. I mean, we all hope it goes well, and none of us want to be disappointed and not to succeed. We all want to succeed next season. But Jack, anything in the comments at the moment?
Yeah, and that just before I go to the comments, Terry, that's what I was mentioning about what was said in the meeting. This rubbish about we're not in a position to sell Jack Clark. We don't want to sell him. We're under no pressure. Well, that's just rubbish. The whole model, so to speak, I hate using that word, but that's the way to describe it, is to sell players when they get to the maximum. And we are going to be in a vulnerable position if a Premier League team wants Jack Clark and Ian Hart and the other people are in his ear saying you need to go. So this rubbish about Sunderland AFC are not in a position to sell. Do they think the fans are stupid? Do they think we're stupid and that we don't expect them to go this summer? I mean,
before you go to the chat, that's exactly the way Speakman came across for all the subjects. Exactly the same way, talking to us as if we are stupid, and it really pisses me off. It makes me dislike him even more.
Because I mean, we're not naive people up here. You know, we love the football club, but we're also switched on. We can see, you know, the way that we are at the minute. But anyway, I'll move on to the comments because people are probably sick of hearing me and you talk for a bit. So, Jimmy Two Shoes says, after the Black Cats mess up, we wouldn't be surprised if our next manager was Sabrina Wiegman. She might do a decent job, to be fair. In all seriousness, no, I think I take on board his point, but I don't think that's likely to happen. Danny Roller said he's happy at Sheffield Wednesday. That's what Stephen Clark said. I'd like to think if we did want him, he would see a better future at Sunderland than Sheffield Wednesday. I mean, they are really fighting relegation every year. Stephen Clark also mentions which team he would play. He says Neil and Evans for 45 minutes, then Ekwa, but it might be too soon for Corey Evans. We might want to touch on that later on, Terry, about Corey Evans. David Brown says Ashish should start. He has passion and some self-belief missing in others. That was what I was going to say. If I could find out a way to play Rig and Ashish behind the striker, behind Bellingham up front, and then you three behind him of Mundell, Rig and Ashish, if you could work out a way to fit those three somewhere, that would be my three. But that means either Rig or Ashish is going to have to play on the wing, and I don't think that's probably best. But I agree with David Brown. If you can work out a way to get him and Rig and Ashish in. Dan Wilkes says they have already said they won't break the wage structure for Clark, which is agreeing with what me and Terry were saying. Jim Nesbitt, Ian Hart will be looking for Premier League wages, which isn't realistic for Sunderland. Hart is spinning the conversation to make SAFC look like the bad guys. Well, I think I mentioned it on last week's show or the week before. I can't stand Ian Hart. I think what he's doing is wrong. It's typical of agents at the moment. It's bang out of order, but that is the climate. Agents are in for themselves. And unfortunately, we've got a young squad. And to me, it comes across like they might be a little bit easily influenced, some of our players. And people like Ian Hart will be in Jack Clark's ear, unfortunately. David Brown, says, no, there was never a plan to create a Premiership club. Dan Wilkes says they just hope that the money for Clark gets reinvested. Well, that's what we all want. Jim Nesbitt says Hart will get a big agent's fee. Absolutely, he will. Decadent Shark wants to know if me or you trust KLD or Speakman. I trust them a little bit, but not very much. Terry might want to comment when I've finished. Urban Prepper, that's Mike, says, sorry you had to rush. It's no problem, Mike. Two more comments. L12 Bong is on the show tonight. He says, evening lads, great banter. I think we should retain the talent or the top earners and build around them. Sell the deadwood. Well, absolutely. And Nick Quinn says he thinks we're going to sell Patterson, Clark, Robertson, Evans. I think he means Evans. Does he mean Evans there? I don't know. And get 80 million and spend 5. Well, I don't know if we'll get 80 million for those 3 or 4 players that you've mentioned, but you might be right. We might spend 5 million. That's about it. Sorry, Terry.
Yeah, but I don't trust Speakman as far as I can throw him. But at the end of the day, he's probably just doing as he's told by KLD. So it doesn't say much for the ownership, really, does it? I mean, I don't trust him at all. I don't trust. You know, trust got to be earned. And at this moment in time, I think we need to. I want to hear more about where we're going next season. We're just hearing the same sort of generic spiel that we heard last season about this model and about buying in youngsters, and they've done a really good job so far, patting themselves on the back. Well, you know, I thought last season was better than this season. If it was the other way around, we had this season, last season, this season, I'm sure everybody would be happy, but it's gone backwards. Now, Cardiff are in good form, apart from the last, they won 4 on the trot, but they did get beat in the derby against Swansea. Cardiff City Stadium. They've got Earl Bullitt. I don't pronounce his name. He's been in charge 42 games. He's won 17, drawn 6, lost 19. But they've beaten Ipswich the time before last, so that was a good win. They beat Huddersfield, Bristol City, Stoke. Do you think we can get results against Cardiff, Jack?
Well, yeah, I mean, earlier on in the season, now, if you'd said it a month ago, without checking the league table, you said, we're miles clear of Cardiff. But I'm looking now and they're actually above us. The 1 position and 5 places, 1 place and 5 points above us. So I think they've got to be respected. They are tough. And the times we played Cardiff recently, particularly, it's never been more than 1 goal in. I think we beat them 1-0 down in Wales last year. Did Bar score last year? Am I making that up? But I think they've beaten us 1-0 twice at the Stadium of Light. They beat us earlier on in the season, and I think they beat us 1-0 last year. So it tells you, particularly with the way that we're going, that I don't think there's going to be many goals in this tomorrow. If we can nick a goal and defend, then that might be our best route to go, because best route to the win. But I think they have to be respected. They look like they're improving and getting stronger towards the end of the season while we're going the other way. So, yeah, 6 or 7 weeks ago, you might have said, yeah, that's a game we should be looking to win, but it's going to be tough and tight, really, really tough and tight. So, yeah, difficult to say how it's going to go, Terry. I think, like I say, it's going to be really, really tough, and I don't see there being many goals tomorrow. But just want to say there's 131 people that are watching, and we've got 43 likes. That's not very good. Come on, if there's 131 of you watching, see if you can drop us a like. See if we can get towards 100. We've got 20 minutes left. We can get towards the 100 mark. And like and comment and get involved. If you disagree or you want to make a comment, make sure you tell me or Terry where we're going wrong.
Yeah, so a team against Cardiff. I mean, the back line sort of speaks for itself. You Patterson, Yelder, O'Nien, Ballard, and you got Hume. Would you bring back Ekwa? Or would you start somebody else alongside? Would you have Dan Neil as the holding midfield and maybe have two in front of him?
Well, this is the thing. I think it depends on how fit Corey Evans is. If he is fit, it would be nice to see him maybe get 15 minutes off the bench in the second half. And then if he's okay, maybe start him on Monday against Blackburn if he feels up to it. But it all depends on how fit he is and everything. I don't know if he is going to be fit enough, but I wouldn't start him tomorrow. I would play Ekwa and Neil together. That would be my two holding. I know they're not really holding, but say in front of the back four. And then, as you say, the back four pretty much picks itself, doesn't it? It'll be pretty much the same four. Hume on one side, Ballard, Yelder, and Styles at full back. Pembele's done nothing to suggest he could get involved, so that would probably be my team. Ekwa being brought back might offer a bit of physicality a little bit in the middle, but an aerial threat, because the times we've played Cardiff, I've noticed they're pretty big on set pieces and they're good from set pieces. So we want to make sure we've got a bit of height in the team. Do we know if Corey Evans is fit, Terry? Is he fit enough to be on the bench?
He's played about 45 minutes in the 21s and he's doing contact now. But I think starting a game is far too soon. I think this weekend, full stop for me. I mean, do you start Styles over Barr, or do you start Adil, or do you start Chris Rigg? Which one? Two of those? Would you have one of those behind? Say if you played Job up top, because I think, to be fair, he's going to start one of the strikers. He's going to start Burstow, or going to start Hamir, isn't he? So, but I mean, our team, if we had Job up top, who would you have behind him in like the number 10 role?
Well, that's what I was thinking of before, because obviously Mundell's on one wing, isn't he? So then I want to play Ashish and Rigg. I don't think this is what Dodds will do. I'm just giving you my opinion. I want to play Ashish and Rigg, but I don't know that if there's a way you can work them out to get them both in the same team, because they're both really attacking midfielders. So it would mean you have to play one of them on one side. So would I play Chris Rigg? Is it fair to play Chris Rigg, a young lad on the right-hand side against probably a solid physical left back from Cardiff? It's tough, but I would maybe go Ashish on the right then and Rigg behind the middle. So I want them both to play, but I can't really see a way that they both work in the team. It's difficult unless you completely change the setup, which is where I agree with you. I think Dodds is more likely to probably go with possibly Burstow up front.
Do we know how many fans is going there tomorrow? Do you know what sort of allocation? Was it 2,000 or was it more?
I think it was between 2 and 2.5, but I don't think it's sold that well. I mean, it's a pretty long old trip. I'm getting up and going down in the morning, but it is a long old trip. So there were still a few tickets talking about earlier on in the week. I don't know if we're fully sold out or not, but I think it's more than 2, but I don't think it's 3,000, maybe between 2 and 2.5, somewhere.
What time are you setting off tomorrow, like, Jack?
We are off at 6:30 in the morning. I'm getting picked up, so it's a nice early start. I think there's a few people that are said they're going on the chat. So if you see us tomorrow, give us a nudge. Tell us you enjoyed the show or you didn't enjoy the show if you didn't enjoy it. Should we give out predictions, Terry, and then maybe move on?
Do you start those journeys with cans for breakfast, or do you not bother?
Oh, no, I'll not be drinking. It's 6:30 in the morning. I know there's a lot of lads that I go on coaches with, Terry, that do that on the away bus straight away as soon as they're on the coach, but they don't tend to agree with me early in the morning. So no, we don't. It's going to be dry for me in the morning, shall we say? We don't advocate that type of behaviour.
I mean, score predictions. I mean, my head says we're going to get beat. Simple as. I just don't see us beating Cardiff at all. But my heart, I can't predict the defeats. I'm going to go for a 1-0 sneaky win. And I've got no idea who'll score the goal. I'd love to say Chris Rigg if he starts scoring the goal. What's your prediction, Jack?
Yeah, you've said what I was going to say. As I said, there's never many goals between us and Cardiff, certainly recently. You know, it's been 1-0 the last 3 times. So I'm going to try and be positive, go there early and try and be positive and say 1-0. Who do I think is going to score? I think Joe Bellingham might just get on the end of something with maybe 20 minutes to go, and we'll scrap a scruffy 1-0 out and not be pretty tomorrow. But as long as we get a result, and I'm hoping we'll get the win. Should I mention a few comments, Terry? Should it time?
Yeah, put some more comments on.
Yeah. So John Ruddock says the club are kidding the fans to sell season tickets. There's only one way forward, and that's to get rid of the owners. So John Ruddock wants them all out. L12 Bong says he thinks SAFC has nothing to play for except the pride. So he's going to say 5-0 to Sunderland. Dak hat-trick. Well, he's obviously started his Easter drinking early, L12. He's obviously well underway with a few cans. David Brown says, play Dak. He has 8 games left to prove himself and get himself a contract somewhere next season. No, I take on board his point, but I disagree. I don't think he's done enough, and he's not going to be here, and I don't think he shows as much. But have him off the bench. I won't be against him coming off 10 minutes off the bench. Nick Quinn says, tell Terry when he gets his redundancy, he's going to invest in the club. Well, I hope you've got plenty of money, Nick Quinn, because we need somebody to do something. Casual Observer says, I think he means Speakman. I won't say what
he beat to buy 2 players with this redundancy.
Mike says Guinness in the morning is breakfast. Well, yeah, if that's the way inclined that you are, but not for me. And he thinks Sunderland are going to win 3-1 as usual. David Walker thinks it's 2-0 to Cardiff. He says sadly. Stephen Clark says 2-1 to Sunderland. James Ramsey says 1-0 to Sunderland. Topsy T says 4-1 to Cardiff. So there's a few think we're in for a hammering. And Stephen Clark says I'd rather have Rushin. Do you want to maybe move on to Blackburn briefly?
Yeah, we can do. What do you have with your Guinness? What does he have with his Guinness? Does he have cornflakes? Does he have Weetabix?
I don't know. I think you've got a strong stomach if you get in the morning. The first thing you're doing is cracking open the Guinness. I mean, not even. I don't think the Irish would do that. Never mind anything else.
Have you got the table up there still, Jack? Do you know what position Blackburn in? I know they haven't had a very good season this season. They seem to have underachieved big time, to be fair. But yeah, we do take on Blackburn on Easter Monday at home. Hopefully.
Yeah, so I've got the table up now. We are in 12th, about as mid-table position as you can possibly get in 12th with 48 points. Cardiff on Friday, they're 5 points above us and 1 place above us. Blackburn are below us, though I thought Blackburn were doing a little bit better. I mean, they were pushing us for the playoffs last year, weren't they? They nearly got in if results had gone the different way, but they're actually 6 points worse off than us. They're in 17th. They've played 38 games and they've got 42 points, and they're actually really looking over their shoulder. They're only 3 points above the drop zone, Blackburn. So if they have a poor Easter, Blackburn are going to be right in amongst it. So yeah, they've had an even worse season than we have by the looks of things, even more disappointing. I think really we should be going out a little bit more against them. I think it's going to be tight and we have to defend better tomorrow. But against Blackburn, if we do get something tomorrow against Blackburn, I think have a bit more of a go. You know, we haven't scored in the last 3 home games at home. We've had so many shutouts this season at home, haven't we? You know, didn't score against Cardiff and we didn't score against Middlesbrough and we didn't score in the last 3. And, you know, we've had a lot of home games this season where we haven't scored or threatened. So I'd like to see us have a real good go against Blackburn because I think they're going to be vulnerable and they're going to be short on confidence.
What's your whole thoughts on this? When they do the attendance at the Stadium of Light and they say it's 40,000 and you know fine well there's only 35 there. That for me just mirrors the club at this moment in time. It just, you're saying we want to trust the owners, but I want to know exactly how many fans are in the ground. I don't want fake attendances. It's just completely wrong and really annoying. What's your thought on that, Jack?
It doesn't. I know what you mean. It's a bit. You sometimes giggle to yourself when they give it off as 40,000, and you know there's maybe not quite 40,000.
Bullshit, isn't it?
Yeah, it goes on people. They count the cards regardless of if you turn up. So if you've got a season card, they'll just count that you were there, even though you haven't actually scanned your season card and come into the ground. So there's probably going to be a few of them next. Between now and the next few games, because a lot of people have just sacked it off. I know lads that are just saying, I can't be bothered with the rest of the season, which I would never do that. But personally, I understand where they're coming from. So you're right. In a real world, Terry, they should tell you how many's there, but it's never going to happen. And it probably doesn't bother me as much as it bothers you. But I know what you mean. It does. You sometimes giggle when they give it as 40,000, and it's visibly under that amount.
I mean, the guy who, Frankie, was he Frankie Fredericks or Frankie Francis, what we call him, who goes in the tannoy and says 41,000. He must be like this: 41,060. He must be fucking laughing himself. Oh, there's a God. It just drives me around the bend, but little things do. So anyway, Blackburn. I'm going to go for a score prediction of Blackburn. I'm going to go for... I think Chris Riggs got more chance of starting against Blackburn than against Cardiff away, in my opinion. I think Corby Evans should come off the bench one of those two games, see what he's like. And also, you know, Dak will probably come off the bench to get some game time as well. I wouldn't be starting Dak either. But I'm going to go for, like I say, I think we're going to lose all of our games. But I'm going to predict another 2-0 win, because at this moment in time, I just feel like I'm just going to predict shite.
2-1 for Blackburn, you mean there?
2-0 Sunderland win.
All right, fair enough.
I've got no confidence at this moment in time. It's a shame because I do like some of the Sunderland players. I just think that the team has been let down by the ownership in recruiting the right head coach. They should have let Tony Moore be. Let Tony Mowbray be at that moment in time. You know what's happened with his illness afterwards. It's got nothing to do with that. But you know, and I'm pleased he's back home now, and hopefully he's getting some kind of recuperation and recovery. But and then you bring in like some Michael Bale, and it's just like you're just letting the whole side down. And now you've got Dodds in charge at the end of the season, and just for me, it's just I feel for some of the good players we have at the club, because for me it's just a wasted season.
Yeah, I think I can't see us. I'm being positive and saying we're going to win tomorrow, and I think I can't see anywhere on God's earth that we're going to win 2 games in a row, 2 games over Easter. So I think 1-1 against Blackburn. I think it's going to be a fairly boring 1-1 draw, but that'll take us, if we get a win tomorrow, 51. Blackburn will be 52 points. We'll know we're going to be safe. We'll probably tail off even more after that, because you know that we're going to be safe. We probably might lose, 4 or 5 of the last 6 after that. But yeah, I know what you mean. We're just drifting. It's been a really flat season, really, really flat from the second half of it. You know, you're optimistic and you're pushing for the playoffs, and now it's just like, yeah, we'll scrape over the line. But yeah, what I was going to say though, Terry, was just a little bit of fun, because it's Easter. Can you think of any Sunderland players that have got Easter-related names? Because I was thinking of Pierre Egwa, Easter egg. That's the only thing I can think of. Just trying to lift the mood a little bit.
God,
get some comments in the
Dan Neil, when somebody gets some praise at Easter, haven't any idea? But what's them things called? Like styles? I don't know. Anyway, but what's your thoughts on the Sheffield? You know, in the minutes, Speakman said, I think they're starting to interview managers or head coaches for Sunderland. I wonder who they've started to interview. I mean, who's in a job right now that they can interview? But what's your thoughts on the Sheffield Wednesday manager? If you got someone like him in the German, they're trying to hope for a new Jurgen Klopp, obviously. They get the German, and he's only had one job, really, and that's with Sheffield Wednesday. And to be fair, he's kind of given them a chance to stay up in the Championship, because they were sort of doom and gloom when he first came in. So he hasn't done a bad job there at Sheffield Wednesday. But for me, I'll be disappointed if someone like him came into the club.
Yeah, he wouldn't be my first choice. I wouldn't be wholly against it. I wouldn't be like, oh, absolutely not, because they did look dead and buried, absolutely. When we played them early in the season down there, 3-0, Darren Moore's Sheffield Wednesday manager, I think, and they were shocking. It could have been 5 or 6. We won that game in a canter. And they did look dead and buried, and he's given them a good chance. They have a fighting chance, but yeah, it's a bit of a difficult one, because I don't know that much about them. It wouldn't surprise us if they did go with a more European style appointment, that's maybe not, the last couple of managers that they've appointed have been predominantly British based, haven't they? The Beale and Mowbray and Neil before them, they've all managed or coached in England. So it wouldn't surprise us if they tried to go elsewhere. So I would give any manager a chance and see what they're like. But Danny Rowe wouldn't be my number one choice, although I do think he's done a good job. My number one would be Steve Cooper if we could get him in, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, anyone on the chat for the last time there, Jack?
Yeah, I'll just go to the chat. A few more comments have been said. Where we are with it. So a few given the black predictions. So Casual Observer says 3-0. He thinks Mason Burstow's going to get a hat-trick against Burstow. Another one that's started drinking early.
Happy back.
Mike says the same. Yeah, Mike says the same. Definitely on the sauce. Stephen Clark says he agrees with me. Thinks it's going to be a 1-1 draw. L12 Bongs talking about concessions, mate, on tickets sold. Well, yeah, that's the attendance thing that we were talking about, as does Stephen Clark. Stephen Clark says the same. Topsy T says, start with a Jaeger bomb. It's the only way to start an away day breakfast. Well, there's plenty do that, Topsy T, but I'm not one of them. David Brown says, the stadium would like this to be renamed the Twilight Zone. Oh, dear, that's a depressing thought. Denny McDonough, when was the last time a Sunderland player scored a hat-trick? That's one for you to be thinking of. When was the last time a Sunderland player scored a hat-trick? Was it Charlie White in League One? He scored 4, did he? I don't know. We might have had one since then. That was the first one that came into my head. Casual Observer says he wants his seats in the concourse back. DJ Sizzle Watson, we should put Speakman on the cross instead, our Lord. Well, I don't know if executing him would be the way to go, DJ Sizzle Watson, but I take on board your point about Easter. We've been given £5 by our fantastic Mike, so thanks very much, Mike, for supporting the show, getting involved. David Brown says we've got no faith in Bradley Dack. Well, I don't think anybody blames us for not having any faith in Bradley Dack. Casual Observer, I was still wearing school shorts the last time somebody scored a hat-trick for Sunderland. I don't think so, but we take on board your point. It has been a while. And there's a couple of people taking me up on my Easter egg name. Steve Egnew, there was one. Johnny Crossan. So there's a couple of people taking me up on that. Easter York, Bellingham come out of his shell. These are getting worse. I'm sorry for bringing that up. I'm sorry, it's my fault. I mentioned that.
Right, so I think we'll have to just wrap it up at this moment in time. I want to say a big thank you to everybody who's put a comment on the chat. Don't forget to give us one more big push for the thumbs up to try and get 100. That'd be absolutely fantastic. And also, don't forget to subscribe channel if you're new. Been great chatting tonight. Hopefully, next time we talk, we're getting 6 points. We've climbed the table, and all the doom and gloom would be lifted. But I might be dreaming. Jack, do you want to say goodbye to everybody?
Yeah, so just as echoing what Terry says, if you like the show, drop a like. While we're finished, while we're just wrapping up, see if we can get towards 100 likes. Mike might pop up in the next 5 or 10 seconds and tell us how many that we're on. But yeah, we try and get 100 likes every show, so that's the main thing. But we appreciate everybody commenting. As I always say, Terry, if we didn't have people commenting and getting involved with the show, we would just be 2 blokes or 3 blokes or 4 blokes talking to ourselves. So we do always appreciate people getting involved and making the comments and giving us questions and things to talk about. So please keep it up. But yeah, hopefully 6 points in the next 2 games. If we get that, everyone will be happy next week. Clocks go forward on Sunday as well, so don't remember to put your clocks forward. That'll be nice and light. And yeah, see everybody later, lads and lasses. Dwight York, I like that. Stephen Clark, Dwight York.
Right, cheers everybody. Take care. God bless. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.